Red One stars Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons, Lucy Liu, Kiernan Shipka and Christopher Hivju, and is directed by Jake Kasdan. Set at Christmas, Santa, played by J.K. Simmons, has a bodyguard played by Dwayne Johnson to protect him against the dangerous plight of delivering presents and Christmas cheer to the kids every year, and to protect him against the likes of Krampus and Grilla, and other mythical beings who share anti-Christmas sentiment. Bodyguard Cal also stands in the way of real-world conflicts, such as in chimneys, or in houses, or across neighbourhoods, or in shopping malls where Santa does his yearly job of bringing Christmas cheer. When a Black Ops team breaks into the North Pole and kidnaps Santa, Cal recruits a Black Hat hacker, played by Chris Evans, to find the mercenaries responsible for this and find the real reason why someone would want to abduct Santa. Seeing initial trailers for this movie, I thought it kind of looked like an absolute 8-year-old boy movie, where you have Dwayne Johnson going up against a hulking Krampus in a slapping contest, and it mostly looked like a Fast and Furious movie, given Dwayne Johnson's presence, as well as its screenwriter Chris Morgan, who's written several Fast and Furious films and is mainly responsible for some of their ridiculous and preposterous stories and plot holes and ideas. Then reviews came out for Red One and they were rotten, saying that the movie is soulless and over-budgeted and visually murky, and Dwayne Johnson's doing the same shit he's always been doing, and the action is mediocre. But I slightly became interested to see this movie for two reasons. One, this is an entirely original film, not based on a pre-existing IP, with a high budget and movie stars. And two, J.K. Simmons is Santa, and it's always amusing to see which actors best portray Santa. We've had Tim Allen, Brian Cox, Kurt Russell, Billy Bob Thornton, and many more, and I would say out of the ones I've seen, J.K. Simmons may be the third best after Billy Bob Thornton and Kurt Russell. Seeing this film, I thought it was actually pretty okay, and was surprised by how tight and comprehensible the screenplay was. I sort of agree on some points about the visual murkiness, but I thought for like an action movie aimed at boys between the ages of like 8 and 15, I thought it worked. I thought this had some fun creature action fight scenes, and Krampus is worth seeing this film for. The visual effects on him were great, and the actor Christopher Hivju, who plays him, just plays it up to the nines, like commanding all the scenes he's in. He's just great. Overall, I don't have heaps to say regarding how good the movie is and how well it works, but I'd say it works well enough to be ill-deserving of like all the hate it's been getting. It's possible Chris Evans might be miscast as like an oafish person and a neglectful father, but I'd say the pacing and length worked pretty good, and overall Red One was okay. But what I really wanted to talk about is related to one of the reasons I became interested to see this movie in the first place. That is original films. Movies that aren't sequels or prequels or remakes or reboots, nor based on a pre-existing thing like a TV show or a book or another movie or a comic book or a theatre play or a video game or a board game or a toy or a product, nor based on a real-life story or a real-life person. They seem kind of few and far between, don't they? Especially movies with a high budget with movie stars and that are aiming to be a big hit and make lots of money at the box office. Let's look at movies that came out in 2024 that have a high budget, have movie stars, and that are completely original. We have The Wild Robot at 78 million, starring Lupita Nyong'o and Pedro Pascal. Definitely movie stars. We have Megalopolis at 120 million, starring Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Jon Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Dustin Hoffman, Jason Schwartzman, and comes from a big-name director, Francis Ford Coppola. Then you have Argylle at 200 million, starring Bryce Dallas Howard, Henry Cavill, Bryan Cranston, Sam Rockwell, Dua Lipa, Ariana DeBose, Richard E. Grant, John Cena, Catherine O'Hara, and Samuel L. Jackson. Again, definitely movie stars. If at $110 million, starring Ryan Reynolds and lots of famous people. Then you have Fly Me to the Moon at 100 million, starring Channing Tatum, Scarlett Johansson, and Woody Harrelson. Then you have Wolves at a surprising $150 million budget, starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And you have Lift at 100 million, starring Kevin Hart. I have no idea what that movie is. And that's it. in a whole year. There may be some holes in my research and a few other handful of exceptions, but that seems like a low number. This is 8 movies in total, including Red One. And out of these 8 movies mentioned, how many of them could genuinely be considered critical and financial success? I mean, Megalopolis and Argyle got shat on. Let's look back now at the last 10 years and make mention of just a few original high-budgeted movies with movie stars that came out. You have Disney Pixar's Elemental. Interesting that animation makes another appearance. And interesting also that in the last 10 years, Pixar has produced about 7 original high-budgeted movies with movie stars. But in 2024 alone, the only expensive original high-budget animated movie was The Wild Robot, which is not even a Pixar movie or a Disney movie. And then you have all of these movies. So this number in the span of 10 years, between 2015 and including 2024, is around 52 films. And I would consider even that a low number for 10 years. And when you look at these films, how many of these could you consider either a critical failure or financial failure, aka a box office bomb? My money is on the majority of these. An interesting thing I've learned though is animation is damn expensive. And another interesting thing I've observed is that Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds have appeared in a lot of these movies, usually to disappointing results. You have Red One, Red Notice, San Andreas, and Skyscraper, all with The Rock, all considered bad films. And then you have also Red Notice, Free Guy, The Hitman's Bodyguard, The Adam Project, Six Underground, and Spirited, all starring Ryan Reynolds, all considered maybe not all bad, but middling to not very good. We had a grand total of about 8 Western-made English-language fictional films from 2024 that are expensive and original. So for the sake of argument, let's look at 2024 movies that are based on a pre-existing IP or property, or whatever you like, that's a sequel, that are $70 million or more. You have all of these. This is 29 movies altogether, and that's 3 times as many as original films. And out of these 29, I would probably consider at least around 8 to be middling to poor, could be considered officially bad films. And the rest have probably done pretty good. So you could consider the ratio of good to bad is more in favor of good in this list. I couldn't even begin to list here movies based on an existing IP that came out in the last 10 years. The number would just be too astronomical. I would say it'd be about over 500. So what might we have learned from these movies and these numbers? That movies coming from a pre-existing IP are now better than original films, and we've gotten to a point where we can predict that they're probably going to be better than original films going forward. Ironically, in a video where I've broken down the numbers and finances of movies, the thing I've probably learned is when all is said and done, the best movies tend to be cheaper, mid-budget movies that could be original ideas or could be adapted from something. You don't need huge amounts of wealth to produce art. You just need good ideas, a good vision, and a bit of luck. Some of the best movies throughout history have been cheap, visually ugly, have terrible acting or what have you, but other aspects of the film work incredibly well, such as the screenplay or the editing, for example. And then vice versa, you might have movies that are incredibly boring, the screenplay is terrible, but the production design is fucking impeccable. I guess if there's anything from this little research project that I might have learnt, it's that expensive films could sometimes be a bad sign. Okay, this will be the outro, me coming forward and turning the camera off. Bye bye.